The father forbids the little boy from opening the closet, but one day he opened it and discovered something horrifying. Hello, everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments by watching. Alex and his father Martin lived in an old house painted pale yellow, nestled at the end of Maple Street. Martin was a night nurse at the city hospital. With his sharp, cold eyes, Martin repeated what he always said every day. "I'm serious, Alex. You must never open the door when a stranger comes to the house. Never go out after 7 p.m. And above all, don't open the closet in my bedroom no matter the reason. Understood?" "Understood, Dad." That was always Alex's response. Then he would return to his dinner in silence. It wasn't that he wasn't curious. Quite the opposite. From the first time he heard that warning, his imagination had run wild. Maybe the closet hid birthday presents or a strange animal, or something even more frightening. But Alex was an obedient child. He had never disobeyed his father until that night. Martin hurriedly put on his coat and slung his bag over his shoulder. His shift started at 8 p.m. and he was already late. "Go to bed early, don't forget to brush your teeth," he said while tying his hair. "Yes, Dad," Alex replied, curled up on the couch with an old picture book. "I'll turn on the nightlight." Martin leaned down and kissed his son's forehead. "The door to my bedroom is locked, you remember?" But he didn't lock it. In his haste, Martin forgot his usual routine. The bedroom door remained slightly ajar. The darkness inside silently swallowed the light from the hallway. Alex didn't notice it right away. He continued reading, then brushed his teeth, went to bed, and turned on the nightlight. His room was quiet, the windows sealed shut, the curtains drawn. The soft orange-yellow glow of the nightlight bathed everything in a soothing calm. Then came the first noise. Click. Alex's eyes snapped open. The clock read 11:52 p.m. He held his breath. Click, click, click. It wasn't loud, but it was clear, like someone gently rattling a wooden door. He sat up, trembling as he slipped out of bed. It wasn't the front door or his own bedroom door. The sound came from the end of the hallway, from his father's room. "Probably just the wind," Alex whispered, his heart pounding. He tiptoed out of his room. The hallway light flickered. A slight breeze blew through a small half-open window. His father's door was slightly open. He swallowed hard and approached. From inside the room came the sound of soft breathing. Breathing like someone sleeping or hiding. Alex froze. "Dad," he called softly. No response. He took another step. The room was engulfed in darkness. A faint trace of perfume lingered in the air, mixed with a musty smell from the corner of the closet. The closet loomed tall against the left wall, dark wood reaching the ceiling. The door wasn't locked. One side was slightly ajar, as if waiting for him to approach. Alex shivered. His father's voice echoed in his mind. "Don't open the closet. No matter what you see, no matter what you hear." But the noise, that breathing, probably a mouse. He tried to reassure himself, but his trembling hands were already reaching for the closet handle before he realized it. 1 second, 2 seconds, he pulled the door open. Inside was a thick, suffocating darkness. Alex leaned in, then quickly pulled back. At the back of the closet was a pink school backpack stained with dried blood. Next to it, a few old children's clothes balled up as if they hadn't been used in years. On the shelf above rested a thin medical file printed in bold letters. Isabelle Grant, age 7. A passport-sized photo slipped out of the file. A little girl with curly hair, round eyes, wearing a red sweater. It wasn't Alex. It was no one he had ever seen. Alex froze. "Isabelle," he whispered the name, his hands shaking. No more breathing came from the closet. It was silent again, as if nothing had happened. But Alex's mind was anything but calm. He returned to his room, clutching the file against him, and hid it under his bed. He was so scared he nearly cried, but he didn't dare call his father. He knew that tonight his father wouldn't answer. He curled up tightly, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling where the familiar shapes of animals from his nightlight now twisted into grotesque shadows. He closed his eyes. He didn't want to think about the backpack, but he couldn't stop his mind from racing. Why was there blood? Why another name? And why did his kind, gentle father, the man who cared so much for his patients, keep these things hidden? A rustling sound came from under the bed. Alex pulled his knees up and clutched his pillow tightly. No, it's nothing. Just a mouse. Definitely just a mouse. But the questions lingered. What Alex didn't know was that from the moment he had opened that closet, his life had changed forever. The next morning, the sun rose early. The smell of toast filled the kitchen, but Alex couldn't eat. He sat in silence, avoiding his father's gaze. Martin watched him, frowning. "You okay?" "I'm just a little tired. Is there something you want to tell me?" "No, Dad." Martin nodded, but his eyes didn't leave his son. Alex looked at his father. That face was still his father's, but now it seemed so foreign. All day at school, Alex was like a ghost. He didn't notice what the teacher said and didn't even open his lunchbox. His mind kept returning to that pink backpack stained with blood, the innocent eyes in the photo, the strange medical file. "Alex," came Ms. Teresa's voice, pulling him from his spiraling thoughts. "Did you hear my question?" "Yes, of course," Alex stammered, blushing. He lowered his head and mumbled, "I'm sorry." Ms. Teresa was Alex's homeroom teacher, a woman in her 30s with wavy hair, usually wearing a knitted green cardigan. Kind and perceptive, she always noticed the slightest change in her students. Alex's unusual silence and distraction hadn't escaped her attention. After class, Teresa gently called Alex over and asked, "Everything okay? You seem a bit distant today." Alex looked up at her, eyes fluttering with hesitation, but shook his head. "I'm fine, just tired." Teresa nodded, placing a comforting hand on Alex's shoulder. "If there's something you want to talk about, I'm always here. You know that, right?" Alex nodded, but his heart raced. He didn't know why, but he trusted Teresa. A small part of him desperately wanted to tell someone to get help. That night, Martin left for another night shift. He said goodnight to Alex as usual, but his eyes lingered, full of unspoken doubts. He could feel the growing distance between them, even though his son hadn't said a word. After his father left, Alex went to his room, turned on his nightlight, and sat on the floor. He pulled out the file he had hidden under the bed. His hands shook as he reopened the medical file. The first page read, "Isabelle Grant, born 3/12/20XX, hometown, Chicago." Below were handwritten medical notes in slanted script. Chronic lung disease, advanced stage, signs of respiratory failure, under continuous monitoring and intensive care, Mercy Hospital. Alex frowned, reading to the end. A scribbled note in red ink made him shiver. No outside contact. Highly sensitive case. Alex didn't understand it all, but his instincts screamed. Something terrible had happened to Isabelle. He opened the backpack. Inside were a few old notebooks, a broken pencil case, and a simple red string bracelet. Alex picked it up. The bracelet was small and simple, but holding it made his heart ache. He didn't know who Isabelle was or why she had died or why his father had kept these things. But one thing he knew for sure, he had to uncover the truth. That night, Alex didn't sleep. He sat and wrote Isabelle Grant's name over and over on a sheet of paper. With each repetition, he felt a little closer to the mysterious girl. And then the noise returned. Click. He jolted, eyes turning to his bedroom door. It wasn't the wind. Click. He got up and opened the door just a crack. The hallway light was still on, but this time the noise from his father's room came from the same closet he had opened the night before. "No, impossible," he murmured. The soft breathing returned, clearer this time. Weak and prolonged breathing like someone in deep sleep or waiting to be found. Alex didn't dare get closer. He backed into his room, slammed the door, clutched the file tightly, curled up under the covers, but his curiosity refused to let him rest. The next morning after Martin left for work, Alex took the medical file, stuffed it into his backpack, and went to school early. After recess, he went to the teacher's office to find Teresa. "Ms. T, I have something to tell you." Teresa looked surprised. "What is it, big guy?" Alex glanced around, making sure no one was listening, then pulled his teacher into a corner of the room. I found it in my dad's closet." He pulled out the medical file, voice trembling. Teresa opened it and skimmed a few pages. When she reached Isabelle's name, her expression darkened. She looked up at Alex. "Seriously, can you tell me a bit more about this?" Alex didn't explain everything, but enough for Teresa to realize it wasn't normal. She didn't pressure the child or scold him. She just nodded gently. "Thank you for trusting me. You did the right thing bringing this to me. Let the adults handle the rest now. Don't tell anyone else." "Okay." Alex nodded, heart pounding. You think something's wrong with my dad?" Teresa squeezed Alex's hand gently but didn't answer directly. Yet the worry in her eyes said plenty. That afternoon after school, Teresa didn't go home as usual. She called a college friend, Ryan Mitchell, now a lieutenant at the Chicago Police Department, and briefly explained the situation, asking him to search records related to a patient named Isabelle Grant. An hour later, Ryan called back. "Teresa, that name comes up in a 20XX child disappearance report. The case was closed without resolution. No suspect identified, and it was shelved 4 years ago. But why are you asking?" Teresa glanced at the classroom where Alex was sadly drawing at his desk. She replied in a low voice, "Because a child just put his whole world in my hands. I can't ignore it." That night, when Martin got home, the house was quiet. Alex pretended to sleep, though his heart was far from rest. The next morning, a police car pulled up in front of the house. Neighbors whispered. A man in a jacket marked Juvenile Division knocked on the door. Martin answered. When he saw Teresa standing behind Officer Ryan holding Isabelle's medical file in hand, he froze. "Mr. Martin Hughes," Ryan said calmly. "We're asking you to come to the station to answer some questions regarding a child disappearance case." Alex stood in the doorway, tears welling in his eyes. The interrogation room was stark white and cold, with only a metal table and 2 chairs facing each other. Martin sat motionless, hands clasped tightly, staring into space. Lieutenant Ryan Mitchell looked at him over the file. He didn't look like a hardened cop. His face carried a quiet sadness, like someone who had seen too many horrible things in life. "Mr. Hughes," he said gently. "You know why you're here, don't you?" Martin didn't respond. He just nodded. "We've cross-referenced Isabelle Grant's name with Mercy Hospital records in Chicago. The girl disappeared 4 years ago, and yesterday at your home, we found her personal effects with her medical file in your bedroom closet." Martin remained silent. "We're not jumping to conclusions, but your silence will only make things worse." He turned his face away as if to avoid the truth. "I didn't kill anyone." "Then why did you keep a missing child's belongings in your closet?" "Because I couldn't forget her." His voice broke like glass shattering in two. "Because I promised one day to protect her." Ryan frowned slightly. "Then tell me everything from the beginning." Martin looked at him, eyes red and glassy, but his lips remained sealed. He wasn't ready. Meanwhile, at the temporary children's shelter, Alex sat in a small light blue room, clutching a pillow back against the wall. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just stared at the wall in front of him. Teresa came to visit that afternoon. She brought a basket of pastries and a book of fairy tales. "Hi, Alex," she said softly. "I'm sorry everything happened so fast." Alex stayed silent. His eyes were sunken as if he hadn't slept all night. Teresa sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Your dad hasn't been arrested. The police are just asking him questions. You understand?" Alex pressed his lips together. "They think my dad killed someone." "No one said that." Teresa shook her head, though she felt the words rang hollow even to her. Alex turned to her and whispered, "Ms. Teresa, if a good person hides something bad, are they still a good person?" Teresa was silent for a moment, then replied, "Sometimes people feel they have to do something wrong to protect what's right. But that doesn't always mean they're bad." Alex looked down. "I don't know who to believe anymore." That night in the cold room, Alex dreamed of the closet. The door creaked open, revealing dense darkness. From inside, a girl with curly hair and a red sweater stepped out slowly. "I'm Isabelle," the girl whispered, her voice thin as a thread. Alex backed away, trembling. "What do you want?" "I don't want anything," Isabelle said. "It's just that you saw me, didn't you?" Alex nodded.
"He saved me."
"But now he's in danger." You're talking about my dad? Isabelle didn't answer. She just gave a sad smile and dissolved into gray mist. Alex woke with a start, cold sweat soaking his collar. The next morning, the news exploded. Nurse suspected in mysterious Chicago child disappearance. Shocking evidence found in single father's home. Martin's photo was splashed across the front page. Springfield, once a quiet town, buzzed with gossip. People took photos in front of Alex's house. Someone had even graffitied "murderer" on the front door. Alex saw it all on TV in the shelter's common room. He threw the remote to the floor and burst into sobs. Teresa arrived shortly after. Furious, she demanded the staff turn off the news. Then she hugged Alex. You don't need to listen to all that. They don't know anything. But I don't know anything about my dad either. Alex sobbed. He hid everything from me. He told me not to open the closet. He told me not to ask questions. So is he still a good person, Miss Teresa? Teresa didn't answer right away. But inside, another question grew louder. Why was Martin choosing to stay silent? Back in the interrogation room, Ryan placed an old photograph on the table. In it, Martin held a little girl, Isabelle, in the hospital courtyard. Both wore patient gowns. This photo was taken by another patient. It looks like it was right before the disappearance. Please confirm. Martin looked at the photo, his eyes beginning to crack. Yes, that's me and Isabelle. I got her out of there. Why? Martin murmured. Because if I had left her there, she would have died by his hands. Martin fell silent. Ryan tilted his head. Who? Martin met his gaze and said clearly, Dr. Eric Vaughn. The room fell into tomb-like silence. That night, Martin was placed in temporary custody for refusing to cooperate further. The police didn't have enough evidence yet to file charges, but the media didn't care. Public opinion exploded. Images of the brown-haired man with haunted eyes were edited into posters branding him a two-faced father. Alex was forbidden any contact with his father. When he heard the news, he screamed and begged to make a call, but it was denied. He hid in a corner of the room and drew a sketch of Isabelle holding Martin's hand, both standing under a blackened sky. At their feet, a pair of blood-stained shoes. A social worker named Laura noticed the drawing and suddenly choked. Where did you get the idea to draw that big guy? She asked. It was in my head. I saw it, Alex replied. Laura sat down, stunned. Have you ever been to Chicago? I've never left Springfield. Laura looked at the drawing again. She was from Chicago and had once worked for a children's charity. Those shoes, that design. She had seen them before. She pulled out her phone and sent a photo of the drawing to an old friend in the journalism industry. A small lead began to emerge. That day, the sky over Springfield was as gray as the mood in the little house at the end of Maple Street. At the local police station, Martin remained silent. He confessed nothing nor provided further statements. His silence only added fuel to the fire of public outrage. Father hides child's body in closet. Cold-blooded nurse who worked in Chicago. Horror story in a quiet town. These headlines spread across social media and appeared in printed tabloids at supermarkets, bakeries, and gas stations. That evening, a police vehicle pulled up slowly in front of the children's shelter. An officer stepped out carrying a file and asked to see the director, Mrs. Lucy Gardner. There's a new development. We need to transfer Alex to the Albany facility to avoid media contact and ensure psychological safety. Lucy frowned. He's only been here less than 3 days. He needs stability. The officer lowered his voice. The teacher, Teresa, is now caught in the media frenzy. We can't let Alex stay near someone directly linked to the case. Lucy sighed. I understand, but this will hurt Alex even more. And she was right. When Alex learned he was being moved, he panicked. He threw his backpack on the floor and ran to the storage room behind the shelter, where broken furniture and old supplies were kept. He hid behind a stack of chairs, clutching a stuffed bear Teresa had once given him, sobbing uncontrollably. It took Lucy and another staff member, Carla Jenkins, over an hour to find him, but Alex refused to come out. I'm not going anywhere, the boy screamed, eyes red and swollen. My dad didn't kill anyone. Ms. Teresa isn't a bad person. Lucy sat beside him and gently brushed Alex's hair behind his ear. No one says they're bad, but sometimes adults have to make really hard choices to protect you. Alex shook his head, arms wrapped tightly around himself. They're not protecting me. They're killing my dad with their words. Carla glanced at Lucy and whispered, He's cracking. Lucy nodded. Let me call Teresa. When Teresa arrived, Alex ran into her arms and cried harder than he ever had. Ms. Teresa, I'm so scared. I know. Teresa held him close, rocking him gently. "You've been so strong, Alex." After a moment, Alex looked up and whispered, "I gave you the file, but I hid something else. I think it might help my dad." Teresa startled. "What is it, big guy?" Alex pulled a drawing from his jacket pocket. It was of the closet with the backpack inside, the red string bracelet, and Isabelle's photo. But at the top, Alex had written a message in shaky letters. "Dad didn't kill anyone. He hid it because he was scared. I think my dad didn't do anything wrong. He was just afraid of someone." Teresa looked into Alex's eyes and a strange feeling washed over her. A silent plea that only those who truly listen could understand. She took the drawing and turned to Lucy. "I need to see Ryan right now." The next morning at the Springfield Police Department, Ryan entered Captain Aaron Hughes's office, a bald, grumpy man who always frowned when outsiders meddled in internal investigations. "More kid scribbles, Mitchell." Aaron snorted, seeing Teresa holding Alex's drawing. "It's not just scribbles. It's indirect evidence. It describes exactly what we found in the closet with eerie precision." Aaron waved it off. "The kid lived in that house. Of course he saw it," Teresa replied firmly. No one told him about the red bracelet, but he drew it in detail. He remembers everything. Ryan added, "Sir, I've confirmed Martin worked at Mercy Hospital during the same period Isabelle was admitted there. This case is old, Mitchell. It was closed 4 years ago due to lack of evidence." "Because someone forced it to be closed," Teresa said coldly. Aaron whipped his head around. "Implying someone specific?" "Eric Vaughn." The name brought a heavy silence to the room. An urgent internal investigation was launched. Ryan discreetly obtained a copy of Isabelle's medical records from Mercy Hospital via a former nurse, Amanda Rivers, who had once worked the same shifts as Martin. Amanda recalled, "Isabelle was a fragile but sweet child. At first, her treatment was normal, but after her transfer to Dr. Eric's unit, she started panicking. She cried all night, begged for help, said, 'He hurts me.'" "Who was it?" Ryan asked Eric, but no one believed her. Who would dare accuse the chief doctor? He had ties to the hospital director and even press people. Martin. He was the only one who believed the girl. Teresa clenched her fists and Martin took Isabelle away from there. Amanda nodded, eyes rimmed red. "I remember that night." Martin didn't say a word. He just stuffed clothes and meds into a bag, then vanished. The investigation took a sharp turn. When police recovered an old security camera from Mercy Hospital's parking garage, they found blurry but viewable footage. Martin carrying Isabelle out the side exit, constantly glancing around. Even more shocking, basement camera footage showed Eric strangling a patient while no nurses were present. The video had nearly been erased, stored on a damaged hard drive, but Ryan had partially restored it with a tech expert. Though incomplete, the evidence was strong enough for the hospital's internal board to suspend Eric Vaughn pending a deeper investigation. Once news of the Eric investigation broke, the media suddenly went quiet. No more headlines accusing Martin of murder. Some sites quietly deleted old articles or altered their titles. But for Alex, it was still a nightmare. He didn't understand what was happening. All he remembered was his father's look when the police took him away, the way his dad never looked back. One afternoon, Teresa visited the shelter with a folded sheet of paper. "Alex, your dad wrote you a letter." Alex opened it. The handwriting was Martin's, familiar and gentle. "My dear Alex, I know you've been so scared. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from everything, but you've been braver than me. You dared to ask, to believe, to fight. I'm proud of you. No matter what happens, I'm always your father. And you're the only light in my darkness." Tears fell on every word. For the first time in days, Alex smiled, a fragile smile. But inside, he felt a gnawing regret for putting his dad in this situation. After the leaked old camera video began circulating internally, it seemed public opinion might finally shift. But then a force intervened and everything flipped. Only hours after news of Eric Vaughn's suspension, a wave of new articles appeared on major news sites. Top doctor smeared by mentally unstable nurse. Who is the real manipulator? Martin Hughes, the unstable father with a troubled past. Martin, once portrayed as a victim, was now recast as a shadowy, suspicious figure. They dug up everything. His past treatment for postpartum depression after Alex's birth. The fact that he'd changed jobs 3 times in 5 years. Each reason officially listed as relocation for family reasons. They even interviewed an anonymous former colleague who said, "He was always quiet, staring at walls." Once I saw him talking to himself in the nurse's lounge. I wouldn't be surprised if something terrible happened. Teresa was furious. She slammed her fist on the table, seeing the article. What the hell is this? It's character assassination. Ryan sighed and tossed the newspaper. Someone's pumping serious money to control the narrative. And there's only one person with the resources to do that. Eric Vaughn. But he's under investigation. Exactly, that's why he's going on the offensive. If Martin's image is destroyed before court intervenes, his testimony won't matter. Teresa bit her lip, rage boiling inside her. And Alex? That child is trapped in a shelter surrounded by lies. If he starts believing them, he may never forgive his father. Meanwhile, at the shelter, Alex became more and more withdrawn. He didn't want to play with anyone, skipped lunch, and stopped talking to Lucy or Carla. He spent his time writing page after page the same phrases. Dad didn't kill anyone. Isabelle is real. Eric is the devil. One afternoon during recess, Alex was taken outside for his usual walk. A middle-aged man in a beige coat and baseball cap stood near the fence. He pretended to be on the phone, but his eyes were fixed on Alex. As he passed, he called softly by name, Alex. He flinched and turned. Don't say another word. Not if you want your father to live. Alex froze. Ms. Teresa, your father and even you. You'll all suffer. Understand? Don't be stupid. Then he turned and disappeared into the nearby crowd. Alex collapsed on the grass, head buzzing with 1,000 wasps. His heart pounded. Sweat dripped down his face. He told no one. But that night he dreamed of the closet again. This time inside was a man in a beige coat, back turned, a twisted smile on his lips. Isabelle lay at his feet motionless. Alex woke screaming. Lucy and Carla rushed into the room, but he just shook his head, saying nothing. His eyes were empty. He understood now. Someone wanted him silenced. The next day, Ryan called Teresa. His voice was tense. We have a problem. Eric just hired one of Chicago's top law firms to countersue Martin for defamation. They're demanding $500,000 in damages. Teresa was furious. That's how he buries the truth. Exactly. And worse, part of the hospital file is missing. What? Isabelle's medical records with the treating doctor's handwritten notes vanished from the archives. Teresa clenched her jaw. He's erasing evidence piece by piece. Yeah, we need a living witness. And the only one is Martin, if he's willing to tell the full story. At the detention center, Martin was brought in for a second round of interrogation. This time, Ryan wasn't alone. Beside him sat Teresa, who had fought for the right to attend. She believed Martin just needed someone by his side to find the courage. Martin entered the room, visibly thinner, eyes sunken but still defiant. Teresa looked at him gently. Martin, if you don't talk, everything will collapse. Eric bends the truth to his will. Martin said nothing. Ryan slid a sheet of paper across the table. An image of Eric with a restored audio recording. Eric's voice came out hard and clinical from a staff meeting. I don't care what the girl feels. We need to free up this room for the next patient. If you can't do your job, I'll find someone who can. His tone was icy, devoid of empathy. Martin trembled. That's how he sees children, Teresa murmured. Martin pressed his lips together. After a long pause, he finally spoke. I couldn't save Isabelle, but I tried. I gave up everything, my name, my career, to get her out of there. She didn't die because of me. She died from her illness and because no one helped me. His voice broke. I kept her things as a promise she wouldn't be forgotten. Ryan nodded silently. Now you can keep that promise by telling the full truth publicly. At the same time, Teresa received news that Alex had been approached by a strange man. She rushed to Lucy. I want Alex under strict protection. No one sees him except staff. Lucy nodded, alarmed. I'll increase surveillance, but if he's come this close already, we don't have much time. That night, Teresa sat in her office staring at a photo of Isabelle next to her file. She turned it over and found a scribbled message in ballpoint pen. Don't let them forget me. She looked out the window. The city lights twinkled in the night, but inside her burned a slow dread. Just in case the kind of justice she pursued might come at a cost. Eric Vaughn's name appeared repeatedly in every file linked to Martin's past at Mercy Hospital. Dr. Eric Vaughn, head of pediatrics, once honored as Healthcare Hero of the Year, and the face of Chicago's government-led campaign Children Are the Future. His record was spotless. Not a single official complaint, no internal reports, just whispers all buried before they could grow. Eric is the kind of man who shapes his image perfectly, Amanda Rivers had said on the phone. He can make a crying child feel grateful for being threatened. Ryan set the thick file on the table. He has power. Teresa nodded, and he knows when to use it. When Martin took Isabelle and fled, he didn't make a fuss. Didn't report it because he knew if it went to court, the truth might slip out. Ryan sipped his cold coffee, frowning. He let Isabelle die in silence, then set a trap for the one person who challenged him. A week later, Eric held a press conference in front of Mercy Hospital. Reporters swarmed. He appeared in a black suit, face serious, eyes slightly red like a man wounded by baseless accusations. I've dedicated my entire career to caring for children. I've been slandered by a man with a known history of anxiety and erratic behavior, he said to the cameras. Martin Hughes was internally suspended for overstepping his authority, and he removed a patient from this hospital without permission. He stared straight into the camera. I believe in justice, and I will not allow myself or this hospital to be victims of unfounded statements. Some reporters applauded, others took notes. The broadcast went national live. Elsewhere, Alex sat in the common room, eyes glued to the screen. Carla tried to turn off the TV, but it was too late. It's him, Alex whispered. He's the one who killed Isabelle. Carla knelt beside him. No, Alex, he hasn't been convicted. Alex looked at her, eyes dark and certain. But he knows how to kill without leaving a trace. At the detention center, Martin received a copy of the press conference transcript via a volunteer lawyer named Stephen Moore, a calm man who agreed to represent him after learning Teresa was seeking legal help. Stephen was an old friend of Teresa's father, a man who hated the media, avoided social media, and always carried an old tape recorder in his jacket pocket. Are you really going to let him keep lying? He asked. Martin stared at the floor, eyes weary. I have no proof, but you have the truth. Truth is worthless if no one believes it. Stephen nodded slowly. Then let me make them believe. But I need everything from the beginning. No secrets. Martin was silent for a long time. Then he said, I'll tell you, but promise me this. If I disappear, you protect my son. Stephen paused, surprised. What are you saying? Martin didn't answer. He pulled a necklace from under his collar, opened the locket inside. It contained a photo of Alex and a small scrap of paper that read, Save him. If I die, believe what he says. At that exact moment, Teresa got home late at night. On her doorstep was a silent envelope. She opened it. Inside, a handwritten note. You know too much, Miss Teresa. If you continue, you'll follow Martin's path. At the bottom, a photo of Teresa and Alex walking together in the shelter courtyard. Both faces clearly visible. Teresa froze. Her hands shook. She didn't call the police. She didn't call Ryan. She quietly locked the photo in her drawer. Now she understood Martin's fear. The next day, Stephen arrived at the police station to meet Ryan. He brought the official transcript of Martin's full testimony. In it, he described in detail. He had once seen Eric administer a morphine overdose to a young girl with heart disease under the pretext of easing pain faster. Isabelle was one of the few patients who reacted severely to the drug. She had convulsions after a single injection. Martin had tried to file an internal report but was told to shut up. When he discovered Eric planned to transfer Isabelle to another department without proper procedures, Martin secretly helped her escape. Isabelle died 3 months later from acute respiratory failure. But before passing, she told Martin, I'm so scared of him. He smiled when I hurt. Ryan read the statement, hands gripping the paper. We need another witness to corroborate Eric's behavior. Stephen nodded. I have one, a former doctor named Adam Whitaker. He worked under Eric and is dying of cancer. Why would he talk now? Because he has nothing left to lose. The next day, Adam appeared in a wheelchair with an IV bag on his arm in a video interview, recorded by the independent journalism group Teresa had contacted earlier. I once saw Eric hit a child with a ruler in the clinic. No one dared speak. He threatened to cancel contracts, erase files. Martin was the only one who resisted, and he paid the price. He had him followed, searched his things, threatened, then framed it all as mental instability. I'm speaking today because I don't want to die a coward. The clip was only 3 minutes long, but when it posted on the independent channel Medical Truth, it garnered nearly 1 million views in just 24 hours. That night, Eric held an emergency press conference denying all accusations and threatening to sue Adam and the media for fabrication, defamation, and spreading false information. But the tide had turned. Under the video, thousands of comments flooded in support of Martin. If one person accuses him, I doubt it. But 3? That's no coincidence. He lies without blinking. Classic behavior of a powerful man in his bubble. At the shelter, Alex smiled for the first time since his father's arrest. Teresa entered holding a new notebook. Alex, your dad told the full truth. And people are starting to listen. Really? Alex asked, really? And I'm not giving up either. Alex nodded, whispering, Isabelle isn't alone. Dad protected her. And I'll protect Dad. Springfield District Court, Monday morning, behind a thick pane of glass separating the courtroom from the public gallery. Light filtered dimly. Martin entered wearing a light gray prison uniform, his hands cuffed. He walked slowly, eyes calm but weary. The whole town seemed suspended, awaiting this hearing. Across the aisle, Eric Vaughn sat surrounded by lawyers and advisors. His custom black suit and slight smile painted him as a supposedly wronged man, not one under suspicion. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Springfield locals and members of the Voices for Victims group held signs. She didn't kill, she protected children. Eric Vaughn, cold-blooded doctor of the system. Media crews jostled at the entrance. One reporter even climbed a lamppost for an overhead shot. Meanwhile, in a small office on the second floor of the Albany shelter, Alex was called to speak with a special investigator, Mr. Greg Foster, recently assigned to assist in the case due to concerns over mental influence on a minor in a criminal matter. Greg wasn't imposing, but his sharp eyes and calm, soft voice cut like a blade. He smiled at Alex when he entered. Hello, Alex, I just want to chat a bit. You okay? Alex hesitated, then nodded. Do you love your dad? Of course, obviously. And if your dad did something wrong, would you still believe him? Alex froze. No, my dad isn't bad. Greg leaned back, voice softer. But you know, sometimes adults hide the truth to protect their kids from pain. My dad isn't like that. Alex replied quickly. Ms. Teresa asked you to bring the medical file, didn't she? Or was it your idea? Alex looked at him and started trembling. I gave it because it seemed weird. Greg opened a file and pulled out photos. The blood-stained backpack, the old clothes, Isabelle's photo. When did you first see these things? I saw them in Dad's closet. One night. And are you sure your dad told you not to open that closet? He did. He told me not to. Then why did you open it? His voice suddenly cooled. Alex stared at him, breathing faster. Listen, big guy. If you say the wrong thing, people will think you were coerced. And if that happens, everything falls apart. Your dad will be convicted. Understand? Alex clenched his fists. He didn't fully grasp the words, but he knew one thing for sure. They were pushing his father over the edge. I wasn't coerced, he murmured. Greg smiled. Good. Then can you rewrite your statement here confirming everything you said before was entirely voluntary? Alex took the pen. His hand shook. He wrote each word shaky and misspelled, eyes wet with tears. Back in court, the prosecutor presented his argument, building on physical evidence. Your Honor, Mr. Martin Hughes kept a missing child's belongings in his private closet. He didn't report it, didn't alert anyone. He has a documented history of depression and erratic behavior at his former workplace, and he refused to cooperate for over a month in custody, only speaking after the media reaction. Stephen Moore stood. Your Honor, my client did not commit murder. On the contrary, he tried to save a child abandoned and possibly abused by the healthcare system, specifically by Dr. Eric Vaughn. We have testimonies from Dr. Adam Whitaker and Nurse Amanda Rivers, as well as video evidence showing Dr. Vaughn's abusive behavior. The prosecutor objected. Witness Whitaker is a terminal patient with unstable mental health. His testimony isn't independently verified. Across the room, Eric smirked and leaned back, visibly relaxed. Then, at the peak of tension, Teresa entered the courtroom holding a USB drive. Your Honor, she called. I have new evidence. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge frowned. Who are you? I'm Alex's homeroom teacher, one of the central witnesses. In caring for him, I discovered an old electronic device in Isabelle's backpack kept by Martin. It's a mini voice recorder. We've just recovered the audio. The USB was plugged into a laptop. The screen stayed black, but the audio played. Young girl's voice, please don't give me another shot. It really hurts. Low, cold male voice, shut up. You have to stay quiet if you want to survive. Another hour. Girl crying, I want to see my mommy. You're making breathing hard. Angry male voice, shut up, Isabelle. I warned you. The audio stopped. The courtroom fell into dead silence. Stephen rose from his seat. That's Eric Vaughn's voice. The question isn't who did it anymore, but why isn't he behind bars yet? Martin sat motionless, eyes filled with tears. The next day, Eric was arrested at his home. The media exploded. Dr. Eric Vaughn, pediatrics chief, arrested in child abuse probe. That night, Martin was released. When he walked out of the detention center, it was late. On the sidewalk in front of the gate, a little boy ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Dad?" Martin dropped to his knees and held his son close. "Alex, I'm so sorry. I put you through so much." Alex murmured through tears. "I never stopped believing in you." Teresa stood nearby, eyes red and puffy. Stephen lit a cigarette, a slight smile on his lips. Justice isn't blind. She was just temporarily blinded. 3 days after Eric Vaughn's arrest, the sun returned to Springfield. No longer hidden behind the heavy gray clouds of the previous weeks, its gentle warmth marked a quiet sigh of relief for someone in a corner of the town. Martin sat by the window of the temporary witness protection facility, holding a steaming mug of ginger tea. Sunlight filtered through the bars, casting a soft glow on his face, still worn and tired, but no longer shadowed by despair. There was a knock at the door. "Come in," Martin said softly. The door opened, and for a moment he couldn't breathe. "Hi, Dad." That voice, Alex's soft voice, rang out like a greeting. He stood there, wrapped in his old coat and the red scarf Martin had once bought at the winter fair. His eyes shone with longing, tears at the edge of his lashes. Martin jumped to his feet. His hands trembled, lips quivering. "Alex, it's me. Dad." Alex ran into his arms like a ship finding harbor, like a fledgling returning to its nest after a storm. Martin held him tight, so tight Alex winced slightly, but he said nothing. He buried his face in his father's shoulder, letting the familiar scent erase all the fractured days behind them. Teresa stood discreetly behind them, one hand still on the doorknob, eyes red with emotion. "All the papers are done," she said softly. "The Springfield court has officially declared you innocent. Eric will be transferred to Chicago for a separate trial." Martin looked up at her. "Thank you for everything." "Don't thank me," Teresa replied. "Thank your son." Alex looked up. "I believed in you, Dad, no matter what the others said. I never stopped believing you were good." Martin kissed his forehead. "I'm so proud of you, Alex. You're the only light in my darkness." At the police department, Ryan Mitchell flipped through thick case files. He and lawyer Stephen Moore were working together to finalize evidence for transfer to the Chicago court. Eric Vaughn would face multiple charges: abuse of power in a medical setting causing severe harm leading to death, obstruction of investigation through evidence tampering and witness intimidation, violation of a minor's rights. Ryan sat thoughtfully. "The only regret is Isabelle isn't alive to testify." Stephen placed a hand on his shoulder. "But her voice echoes in everything Martin and Alex have said. Justice doesn't require the living. It only needs the truth illuminated." 2 weeks later, Martin and Alex officially left Springfield. On a warm afternoon, they boarded a bus to Savannah, a place Martin had once dreamed of for a fresh start. "Are you scared?" Martin asked as the bus pulled away, familiar streets fading behind the window. Alex shook his head. "As long as I have you, I'm not scared." On his lap was a small framed photo of Isabelle. He didn't hide it. He kept it on his lap, gently wiping the dust. "She's gone," Alex said, "but she's not alone anymore. Now you and I will live for her." Martin said nothing. He just took Alex's hand, squeezing it tight as if the world could vanish at any moment. Savannah welcomed them with soft light and the slow rhythm of a quieter city. Martin found work at a small health clinic in a suburban neighborhood. No suspicious stares, no lurking media. Teresa had moved there too, now teaching at a local elementary school. "I came for a reason," she said one afternoon, meeting Martin at a small cafe near the bus stop. "For what?" Martin asked. Teresa smiled gently. "To make sure kids like Alex never have to face this alone again." The two sat in silence, bound by losses too deep to name. One Saturday morning, Alex woke early and carefully placed Isabelle's photo on his desk. He sat facing it, arms crossed. "Can you hear me?" he whispered. "Dad protected you, and he protected me too. Now everyone knows the truth. No one calls him a murderer anymore. He wears a white coat again and helps people." He smiles more now. "Even though I see he's still sad sometimes when he looks at me, but he's strong." At Chicago's Special Detention Center, Eric Vaughn sat alone in isolation. His once expensive suit replaced by a gray prison uniform. His formerly sleek silver hair now disheveled, but his eyes, His eyes were still cold. A young lawyer entered, handing him a file. "You should consider pleading guilty. With the evidence we have, there's no escape." Eric stared through the bars. "I'm not afraid of prison. Maybe not, but you should be afraid of being forgotten. You were once a famous name. Now no one remembers you except as a brute." Eric laughed dryly. "They'll forget." The lawyer closed his file. "No, people can forgive the weak, but they never forget someone who smiles while hurting a child." He left, leaving Eric trapped in the darkness he had woven. A week later, Martin stood at the witness stand in Chicago's city court. Eric Vaughn was brought in, hands cuffed. He saw Martin but said nothing. His eyes no longer held the confidence of power, only the cold detachment of a man unable to bear confinement. The prosecutor began the questioning. "Mr. Martin Hughes, do you confirm you once worked under the accused Vaughn at Mercy Hospital?" "Yes." "Did you ever witness the accused abusing children, specifically patient Isabelle Grant?" "Yes." "What evidence do you have?" "I was the one who got Isabelle out of the hospital. I kept her bracelet, her medical records, and her things so that if I got the chance, I could tell the story." Eric let out a dry laugh. "Lies." The judge banged the gavel in warning. Martin continued, never looking at him. "Isabelle died 3 months later from her illness, but not because of me. Her death was the result of a chain of failures he caused, then discarded. He made a child believe her pain was her fault. That's the part we can never forgive." No one in the courtroom spoke. Eric Vaughn's trial concluded. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison with an aggravated sentence due to abuse of power, extreme harm caused, and witness intimidation. More former patients came forward, expanding the investigation. The verdict made front-page headlines. Eric Vaughn, the fall of a fake American medical hero. Martin came home and hugged Alex. "I'm proud of you, Alex. You're the reason I didn't break." Outside, through the window, winter approached. But the light in their home never went out, and in their hearts the past was finally at peace. This story is a powerful reminder that the truth can be buried, but it cannot be erased. Though justice may be blind and malevolent forces try to control everything, courage, love, and belief in the truth will always be the light that guides the way. Martin wasn't a perfect hero, but he chose to protect life rather than stay silent. And Alex, as he had become the voice of what is right. Sometimes it only takes one person who believes in what's right to give the world a chance to change. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to continue bringing touching stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.